And we are back, and we just finished watching 2023's Nimona, currently streaming on Netflix. This is from the graphic novel by Nate Stevenson. This has a screenplay by Robert L. Baird, Lloyd Taylor, with a story credit to Robert L. Baird, Lloyd Taylor, Pamela Ribin, Mark Haynes, Troy Quane, 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 and Keith Bunnan. That's a lot of story people. This is rated PG with a runtime of 1 hour and 41 minutes. This was Olive G's choice. Excellent, by the way. I thoroughly enjoyed the crap out of this movie.
Yeah, it was good.
And it made me teary, I think, at one point.
I could see that. There's some heartfelt
I wasn't
moments.
sobbing.
No, it was not a sob fest.
It wasn't a sob fest, but
there are some heartfelt moments.
It got me in the feels towards the end. We had recently done... Well, we had all gone as a family to see Across the Spider-Verse, and then you and I had done Akira, so I guess we're continuing our animation domination. I'm going to go around the table and get impressions. I'm going to start with you, Olive G. Excellent choice. Why'd you want to watch this?
Because I read the book.
Yeah, did you enjoy the graphic novel?
Oh, yeah, I was okay. I was very upset at the ending, though.
Upset at the ending of the graphic novel?
Is it different than the movie?
Is it different than the new movie?
Yeah, it's way different than the movie. In, like, the graphic novel, the director, there was never, like, a queen, there was a king. And the director kidnaps Nimona and puts her in this, like, weird dome thing that prevents her from breaking out and using her powers. And they're trying to, like, I don't know, like, take her powers away from her or something so they can use her as a weapon.
Oh.
And,
is she a shapeshifter?
Yeah.
Okay.
But her backstory is way different. She was actually experimented on. And, like, at the end, the whole place explodes with, like, the director inside of it, and, Blackheart, or whatever the hell his name is, and the other guy, the white guy,
Goldenloin?
Ambrosius.
And they leave, and, like, I don't know, it's like a couple days later, maybe, he wakes up in the hospital, and, like, he's like, here's the report, and like, someone hands him the report, and he's like, this is a shark. This is a drawing of a shark. And, like, he knows what that means, and he runs out, and he sees her, and then she just, like, smiles and waves at him and walks away or something like that.
So, in the graphic novel, the director isn't trying to kill... in the graphic novel, the director isn't trying to kill the king, right? Or are they?
No, they didn't kill the king.
But they still want to get Nimona's powers.
Yeah, there's something like that. They want to, like, turn her into a weapon or something. Or, like, either that or just, like, kill her.
Is the director in the graphic novel a man or a woman?
I'm pretty sure it's a woman. But, like, basically what happened was, when he lost his arm was, they needed him, the Blackheart, to become a villain. So, Ambrosius, white guy, whatever.
Goldenloin.
Pork loin. He basically exploded his arm after he lost, and, like, pretended that it was an accident, and he got, like, kicked out of the league or whatever.
It was Ballister Boldheart.
And in the comic, he was Blackheart.
Was he?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder why they changed all these things.
I didn't read the comic. I remember when it was a webtoon, like not a webtoon, but like just like a web comic posted on a website, and it was like very simple, and it was almost like it almost felt like a bit of a gag-a-day strip, where it was just Ballister Blackheart was like the villain of the kingdom, and somehow this little shark girl creature. Shapeshifter named Nimona wants to be his assistant or his sidekick. And his enemy is Goldenloin.
Oh, he's the enemy?
He was the enemy. He was like the guy who was always trying to like he was Blackheart was the arch villain of the society, and Goldenloin was the hero everybody loved. And it was like I said, it was more of like it almost felt more of like a gag-a-day strip. There was like an overarching thing where you sort of like see that there was a relationship between Goldenloin and Blackheart at one point.
Also,
but then I think they stopped just putting it out online, and I
then
guess it became a graphic.
Also, I'm pretty sure they weren't you know what in the comic.
They were gay in the graphic novel.
Well, I didn't want to spoil
Yeah.
it because I think this is new, probably, right?
That's all right.
And like, I mean, even in the before I guess it became a graphic novel, it was sort of like implied that was the case. That the two were together.
Really?
Yeah.
But it's not like a.
It's not the main.
Yeah,
thrust of the story.
as far as this movie goes, which apparently they've changed a lot. I mean,
A lot.
Yeah, they didn't really follow the graphic novel too much aside from these are the characters and now they're in this story. They changed a lot, I guess, to sort of make it a little bit more.
Yeah, there wasn't floating cars.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
is what is the time reference?
Oh yeah, back in the graphic novel it wasn't like this. Like now it's like futuristic sort of, but in the graphic novel it was like old timey.
Medieval times.
like medieval time.
Mm-hmm.
Although he
except
still
they had
had
machinery.
a mechanical arm though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because his arm was
Well, maybe he was smart enough to
Taken
figure
off.
out like.
Yeah, well, he was like a mad scientist type bad guy. The typical bad, the classic arch villain is always very smart, and it's funny that the hero is usually just some like big strong guy. Might makes right in the old days, and that's how it sort of was. But yeah, that carried over.
I don't think it takes away though from enjoying this. I don't. It's always good to have some kind of backstory. So for all of you that have actually read the graphic novel, kudos, or seen the original web series, kudos. I have seen the book in your room, Olivia. I've never read it, but I enjoyed the crap out of this. I thought it was a great story.
Yeah,
it was really nicely told. The writing is sharp, very strong. The characters are really nicely fleshed out. The voice actors, Chloë Grace Moretz as Nimona, fantastic. Riz Ahmed, always a treat to see him or hear him, I guess, in this as, what is it, Ballister
Boldheart in this.
Boldheart in this.
Is he still Goldenloin?
Well, the other one is.
The other guy, yeah, I think the other guy's name
His
was
name
still
is
the same.
Ambrosius Goldenloin. It sounds like something that should be on a menu.
Yeah. Well, like I said, this was, like I said, it was more of like a gag-a-day strip, so they were going for like really on-the-nose naming conventions. I mean, Blackheart and Goldenloin. He was long flowing hair, at least in the
He looked like
He's
a
sort of
woman.
like that here.
yeah, and everybody's like drawn in very pointy features, except for Nimona, who is this sort of like little potato.
The thing was, in the book, he looked like a woman.
Yeah, he has like long,
Yeah.
long flowing blonde hair,
All right.
golden hair.
golden hair. He was like, he was the golden boy,
All right.
the pinnacle knight.
Did you enjoy the film, Olive G?
Absolutely.
Yes. I think this was solid, even though there were so many differences from the original. Does it bother you, Olive, when people take existing properties and change them so much or not?
I mean, like, sometimes it bothers me and sometimes it doesn't.
Did it bother you here?
Not really.
Okay. I mean, it was still, like, from start to finish. It
I
was still-
kind of, like, expected that, like, they might, like, change a
Change a
couple
few
of
things.
things.
But it's still...
Like, I didn't mind it.
Okay, but it's still like from start to finish, you have a coherent story, right? So, still good.
Yes, very good.
Okay. Did you have a favorite character? Character.
Bro, Nimona.
Nimona. Why'd you like Nimona?
Because she was cool.
cool.
Yeah,
Big
I
hair.
wish I could be a shapeshifter. That would be pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
That would be very handy.
Get out of sticky situations.
I mean, is it too soon to ask for favorite scenes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came out this year. All right, never mind. Gigi, over to you. What'd you think of the film?
It was good and entertaining and funny.
Did you remember enough of the graphic novel to kind of compare and contrast it?
Not really. I read that like a super, super long time ago, and then I just pawned it off to Olivia.
All right.
Really? I thought I got that book for Christmas.
Or that might have been what happened. I don't know. I might have borrowed that. I had a friend a couple years ago who I'd constantly borrow comics and graphic novels from, so it might have been that. And then you might have gotten it. I might have gotten confused, but I don't have it anymore is the point.
Okay. Nothing to do with the film, but Does it bother you when something that you've read or seen either as a web comic or read as a graphic novel is then turned into a film and is changed so much?
No, as long as I get to go back to the original thing and see it again. And sometimes it could be changed for the better. So there are two things that are really good now.
That's true too. That's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite character?
I also like Nimona.
Why?
She was funny, and being a shapeshifter is obviously really cool.
Was she metal?
Yes.
I'm gonna start using that word. Over to you. What do you think?
I thought this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. I liked the art style. I thought they did a great job on the animation. Just the way it was colored and shaded. It's sort of, I mean, it obviously didn't look like the graphic novel.
No, I think you said this is more.
Absolutely not.
You said this is more
Not
detailed.
look like the graphic novel.
Yeah, but you could see the influences of
The graphic
novel in the way these characters were designed. They were just obviously more fleshed out because they were 3D.
Also, they're a lot rounder here in the graphic novel. They're really pointy and
They're
sharp.
very pointy, very sharp. Their bodies are almost like stick figures, almost. Except for Nimona, who's sort of like a little potato, very round shape.
Yeah, potato.
We love potatoes.
I mean, and everything's more realized. I found it interesting that obviously there's like the story of how their society began with their little mythology or whatever. And a lot of times when you're in some sort of fantasy story, it's like, okay, you have all these things and then 1,000 years passed and everybody's still walking around wielding swords and riding horses and
But also flying cars.
Pulling ox. I'm talking about in general.
Oh.
In this, 1,000 years passed, and yes, technology moved. So it made sense. I mean, they still had this very traditional thing with these knights and kings and queens and whatever. But technology actually advanced. I mean, they had swords, but the swords were like they had like they were glowing most of the time, and they were shooting stuff at each other. Yeah, it was sort of looked like a crossbow, but it was still basically a gun. They were firing cannons and stuff and riding flying vehicles. A lot of times in fantasy, literally thousands of years will pass and no technology will advance. So I thought that was interesting that somebody finally took that criticism and did something about it, and yet still kept that bit of that medieval aesthetic with knights and armor and swords and stuff like that. And even the vehicles that the knights rode on, still it was almost like a horse shape.
Yeah.
You know. So I thought that was a clever thing. I mean, it wouldn't have bothered me if they were just running around on horses and whatnot. But
the story was compelling enough.
that it didn't bother me at all. And they have their own internet. There's like screens and stuff plastered all over the city.
Phones, I guess.
I like the characters. There's something about Riz Ahmed's voice
So fantastic.
that is just, it's like this sort of like heartfelt determination sound in his voice, where you see he'll do what he can to do the right thing, but also it's almost like his heart's breaking when he speaks.
Yeah.
Nimona's voice was great. Chloë Grace Moretz did a fantastic
She's so
job with
freaking
that, bringing that sort of energy to this character who has like a ton of energy.
Who's ultimately just a young girl who wants to be loved and accepted.
Well, clearly not young. She's like over 1,000 years old.
But she manifests as a young girl.
She manifests, yeah.
She also has that mentality. She's not old-minded.
She's not an old soul in the slightest.
No, she still carries the hurts of that I guess a young person would feel
At being rejected.
and
called a monster.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the whole film is her existence is, it's basically just like a metaphor for like trans kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they did a fantastic job with it. And I mean, there were some aspects of it that were a little over the top goofy, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's still a kids movie.
Yeah. And I think, but done in a way that adults can enjoy it. I love that you picked up the whole like being different sort of like what we're going through now with, I mean, I'm sure trans kids existed even before it became like the Fox outrage talking point of the day.
I mean, there's always been people who, I prefer
I'm
things
different.
that are traditionally masculine or traditionally feminine. This appeals to me, and it doesn't. I don't fit in this box.
Right.
But this is just the way it is.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. And if you acted too much into that or outside of that box, they were going to call you a monster. So there you go. Like I said, it's just it's a metaphor for that. Sure. This in this movie.
Sure. There's a lot of diversity. There's a lot of representation in this film, so that also adds to it. I think again,
but it doesn't feel like it's getting shoved down your throat.
No.
It's really well done.
I was just gonna say
this film is not. I hope I'm not making people think this film is like preachy or anything like that. Yeah. This is about as good as you can get as far as telling a story like this and conveying that message on a level that maybe you're not going to understand on the surface, but it's there.
Right.
And you could read that into it or not.
Right. And I was just
going to enjoy it either way.
I agree with you. I think that if you don't know about the creator or the backstory, you could still take it at face value. And it's just the story of a young girl who just wants to be loved, wants to fit in, and is tired of being considered a monster. And that's why she reaches out to Ballister, because he's now the villain. Right. So she aligns herself to him. And in the process, there's that really nice scene where she's like, well, you changed the way you thought about me.
Yeah.
Which I think was really poignant and really lovely and really beautiful. And I think that for anyone who needs to hear that, I think this is great. I think please know that you have every right to be on this astral plane with us. Just like the moon and the stars and the sun, you are exactly where you need to be. Maybe you don't realize that right now, but find your tribe and live a good life. That's it, right? I mean, that's what any of us can do. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Not really. Like I said, this is I guess if you like the graphic, I never read the entire graphic novel, so I never got the whole story.
It's in Olive's room if you want to read it.
Maybe I'll check it out.
It's buried in my room somewhere. You're probably never gonna see it ever again, though.
Yeah. I'm sure at some point I'll have to go in there and clean because certain people don't clean their rooms. And I've seen under your bed.
I cleaned it out.
I've seen the foot of your bed too. I just tried to open or make sure your window is closed, and I couldn't get there.
Yeah, of course you couldn't. That was before.
This was last week. I tried to see if your window was open. I couldn't.
All right.
Anyway, all right, we're off on a tangent about cleanliness. But as far as the movie goes, it's an entertaining story. I liked how it was sort of like you have the setbacks, the moment of triumph, the setbacks, the moment of triumph, the setbacks. And I liked how they brought lines back. They made callbacks to previous bits of dialogue. I love the line about how Nimona's line about sometimes like everybody wants to just stick a sword in my heart, and half the time I want to let them.
Yeah. And
that comes back.
Yeah.
And you have that moment with Ballister at the statue with her. That was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think that was one of the parts that made
that was like a real like
tug at your heart.
A tug at your heart moment. It was like the high point of the movie. It was where all the drama was leading, and it nailed it. And then it continued. It concluded the story. It was like at just the right point. I thought that was excellently done.
Do you think? Just as a side, I'm going to go around the table and ask this question to everybody, but I'm going to start with you and work my way around. So, do you think this would work just as well if it was live action, or does it need to be kind of animated to sort of complement the graphic novel?
I mean, it could have. Like I said, the the style of the movie, it had some influences of the graphic novel, but the graphic novel, the art style is very different. They definitely cranked it up.
But could this be told effectively and well as a live action, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, with today's special effects, sure.
But you can do more with animation.
You could do more with animation. I especially like the expressiveness of Nimona's face.
Yes. And
also that's a level
Ballister, his eyes.
Ballister too, but Nimona especially.
Yeah.
Nimona she was just mugging like a lot through that. And so that you can't really mimic in real life. Not without it being sometimes a little bit overdrawn or too much.
Yeah. Jane, what about you? What do you think? Do you think this would work as a live
Hate
action?
live action. No live action.
All right.
Live action's terrible.
Olive G?
I agree with Grace. Live action's like hot garbage, especially with like the Little Mermaid movie and how like the animals look like those like nightmare inducing.
I don't,
Why is that? I mean, they have so much money. Why
movies where actors
It was never meant to
they're
be.
good at like actors are good at performing, but animation is just better. I hate live action movies that like derive from some comics because it's not the same. Like when we watched Lock and Key, I didn't like some of the ways they adapted it because I thought the comic did it perfectly and they would have been able to replicate it through the animation.
well, that's like, those are like story aspects, but we're talking about visuals.
I'm also talking about visuals. In Lock and Key, there was that key where you could look inside someone's head, and in the comic, it was like actually in there. And then the live action, it was just like a box appeared in front of you or something, and I didn't like that.
Oh.
I liked the way that it was in the original, and they could have replicated it by animating it, but they chose to do it live action.
But they could have done FX on that to make it, I guess, whatever, more in line with how it was in the comic.
Yeah. It didn't. Honestly, that didn't bother me in Lock and Key because it's
so
tough.
bad.
Like for what you're describing,
That's tough.
that's tough to show in a physical world.
Yeah, that's why
the
animation's
reason why that works so well in a comic is because it's a comic, and in comics you control reality. And
yeah, that's why it's nice. You could do anything. And you guys are even talking about expressions. People are just more expressive. You mentioned Ballister or whatever, his eyes, which I was waiting for someone to talk about. They were so big and like innocent.
Yes.
That was done really,
Yes.
really well.
I thought
and
that
in
was done really,
live
really well.
action, you can't do that because, eyes, they're human eyes. They look normal.
one
Or
thing
if you don't have somebody who's I mean, some people have really great expressive eyes.
one thing I sort of noticed that was strange about the eyes, the highlights in Ballister's eyes were squares, and in everybody else's there were triangles. I don't know why I noticed that, but I wondered
I
why
didn't
that
even
was.
notice that.
Yeah, I never
Interesting.
saw that. I just saw that his eyes were super wide and like puppy dog eyes.
Yeah.
Well, there was like a certain innocence to him, right?
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, it fits Riz Ahmed's voice.
Yeah. And I think also, what's the Kirkman thing? What was it?
Invincible?
Invincible. Like that couldn't have been done live action.
I mean, it could, but it would be so
Astronomically
expensive, and also like that would be like the Boys level of gore and on like a 10 times scale, because there are aspects of Invincible that are just mass murder. I
Right.
mean the scene where he fights his dad.
Yeah.
People are just it's
And
like
blown up
Casualties
and torn to shreds.
galore.
yeah, it's like running through a room full of just like crepe paper or water droplets, and each of those droplets is a human being.
So we need animation to tell stories. Absolutely.
Oh, you could do a lot with animation that you can't do with live action. It also, I mean, it depends on the story and the skill of the people doing it. I mean, sometimes you will see a live action adaptation of something that's decent. I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head.
300.
300, yeah, there you go. 300 was well adapted.
Yeah. I was just going to say, we should probably watch that with the kids.
Yeah, we
They're
can watch
old enough.
300. They're old enough.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
All right. I'm going to go around the table and get numbers. I'm going to start with you, Olive G. 1 to 10.
Like An 8.5.
I'm going to give this an 8.
I'll give this like a 7.5.
I'll also give this an 8.
Yeah, I think from where it starts to where it ends may not be.
I'll give it an 8.
Yes, thank you. It might not be frame for frame what the comic or the graphic novel is, but I think if you like the source material, if you like these actors, if you have an hour and 41 minutes to sit down and watch a really good, well-told story, this is a safe bet. Again, Nimona, streaming right now on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out. From the graphic novel by Nate Stevenson. This is, again, PG. Yeah, PG. There's no profanity. There's no real crazy violence
there's
in it.
like fighting and violence.
Is there like even blood?
Not really.
Not really. There, what was like? There was a part where like in the battle where they fell, like all the knights and Nimona and everybody fell off that tower and bodies were like hitting the ground. And there was a part where it sort of looked like maybe there was blood, but it wasn't. It just sort of was like a shadow that showed and recessed very quickly, almost like, I don't know, maybe that was like an effect of their armor, that it was like a shockwave thing that prevented them from all being killed. I don't think anybody actually died.
No.
Yeah, that annoying guy had
At the beginning, there's someone's death.
Oh yes, the
thing,
thing, but they don't even they
don't show it.
They don't show it in any sort of graphic way. They don't even show how Ballister loses his arm very graphically.
Yeah, I was confused because he had both arms, and then like all of a sudden, like it went like, and I was like, wait, did this happen or not?
Yeah.
There wasn't blood splatter.
But there wasn't like there was nothing dripping or anything like that. It was just sort of it's gone now.
Is it like the head in Waxburg's?
Oh my.
All right, so 8.5. Absolutely. Go
Yeah,
check
check it
out
out.
Nimona 2023, currently streaming on Netflix. And that's it from us, and we will bid you all a
Good night.
Good night.
good night.